Hare Krishna, and welcome to this week's virtual Sunday feast here at the home of Sri Sri Kishore Kishori. And on behalf of Srila Prabhupada, a big welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. Just some quick announcements before I turn it over to tonight's speaker, His Grace Ajita Prabhu. The first announcement is that the Iscon Chicago 2021 calendars are nearly sold out. There's only, I think, a couple dozen left. So if you haven't ordered yours, please do so. You can order it through isconchicago.com. It's a beautiful calendar that hopefully will help in our solace because the temple remains closed. So there's some nice meditations on being together while apart is one of the thematic elements of the calendar this year. So it's very beautiful, and one of our devotees in the congregation took the vast majority of the pictures, which are excellent. So please take advantage of this opportunity. Also a reminder that the daily japa session at Iscon Chicago is continuing every day from 5 a.m. until 7 a.m. So that's a full 2 hours of japa if you wish to take advantage of being able to, again, chant with other devotees, especially in this period of COVID quarantine. Finally, I'll turn it over to our speaker, His Grace Ajita Prabhu, who hails from Chicago, although he's now in Kolkata, running the largest startup incubator in West Bengal, and it's catching up with some of the other larger tech hubs as well throughout India. In addition to that, he does a lot of speaking engagements on Krishna conscious principles in everyday life, especially in a professional type of setting. And he's going to be continuing our Brilliant as the Sun series by speaking on Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 3rd chapter, which he called Krishna, up close and personal. Thank you so much for speaking. I know it's 5 a.m. where you are, so I appreciate you making the time this early on your Monday to address the Chicago congregation. So a big welcome back.
Thank you so much, Ishanandan Prabhu. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very grateful. All right. So let me just go to Invocation Prayers. Om Ajnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahim Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shivatapada Kamalang Shri Gurung Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagan Raghunatanitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagan Lalita Shri Vishakanatamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namasate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarabhyas Chakrapa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. All glories. Okay, so today's topic, up close and personal. So getting to know Krishna a little better as a personality. So, in Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Krishna is saying, Vedyascha sarver ahamevya Vedya, chapter 15, text 15, that of all the Vedas, I am to be known. And Srila Prabhupada has very, very beautifully crafted his purports on all the different scriptures that he translated, making sure that Krishna is front and center, that from every purport, we get a little bit of understanding of who Krishna is as the personality of Godhead, right? Sometimes, just imagine this. You might know the president or the prime minister of your country, and you might be like, oh, I know the president very well. Oh, this person likes to have breakfast like this and has a nature of dealing with charity like that and dealing with, the diplomacy in this way. And people will be like, wow, you know the president quite well. And we have the same opportunity with not a president, but the creator of this entire creation. And such a personality is Krishna. And knowing him is impossible, yet he makes himself available to his devotees through the scriptures, through realizations, through bhakti. Right? The unknowable becomes knowable when we have surrender, when we have the eagerness in our heart to know Krishna. And so today in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 3, that's my goal, is to go through some of those Srila Prabhupada's purports to give us different angles of the personality of Godhead so we can know him up close and personal. So I'll start with the first purport, where the Srila Prabhupada is saying that the Lord proved to be a worthy son of his parents, even at the age of 16 years. Both brothers, Lord Krishna and Lord Baladev, went to Mathura from Vrindavan and killed their maternal uncle, who had given so much trouble to their parents, Vasudev and Devaki. There's a lot of times that our parents struggle through life and give us the best possible education, the best possible life that we can have today. And as we realize about some of their dreams that were unfulfilled, about some of their aspirations that were unfulfilled, or some of the problems they have, we as grown-ups, young adults, want to fulfill those desires. And here we see Lord Krishna doing that part as an ideal son. His parents have been in prison of Kamsa since his birth, and even before his birth. So as he comes to age, he makes sure he frees his parents, kills this demoniac king who happens to be his maternal uncle, and thereby sets an example and proving that he is a worthy son, a very worthy son, right? Of course, there is compassion, there is love, there is exchange and all of that, but most importantly, relieving his parents of their burden. And that's what a putra means, one who relieves his parents, right, from difficulties and things like that. So that's what Krishna and Baladev did very, very beautifully. Then the next part is again taken from the next purport, where Srila Prabhupada is saying, the Lord is constitutionally well versed in all Vedas, and yet to teach by example that everyone must go to learn the Vedas from an authorized teacher and must satisfy the teacher by service and reward. He himself adopted this system. The Lord offered his services to his teacher, Sandipani Muni, and the Muni, knowing the power of the Lord, asked something which was impossible to be done by anyone else. The teacher asked his beloved son, who had died, be brought back to him, and the Lord fulfilled the request. So a few angles here that you get to see of Krishna. One is, although he's a knower of the Vedas, in fact, he's a source of the Vedas, he sets an example by accepting a spiritual master, learning the 64 different sciences and arts of the Vedic knowledge. Very quickly, though, he just hears it once, and he is able to retain and get full perfect understanding of those subject matters. So again, he's showing his godlike nature here, where people take years to learn these subjects. He's just taking 64 days, and that's it, he's done. But at the same time, he's also setting an example as a leader. Again, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that what a leader does, common men follow, right? And so here he's doing that. He's setting that example as a leader, that, what, even I accept a spiritual master, even I study the Vedas. So what is your excuse? You should too, right? So if one follows the example of a leader, even not knowing he's God, but as a great personality, right? Still, that makes a huge impact there. That God himself has taken the effort to learn the scriptures, so should we, right? That's what the scriptures are here for. And service to his teacher, service to his spiritual master. And his teacher knew this is Krishna. So he didn't ask for some little donation, little charity as a Guru Dakshina. He said, bring my dead son back from life. Bring my dead son back to life. And that only God can do. Nobody else can bring somebody who's dead, has already gone to Yamraj, and bring him back. Krishna could. And that's why his teacher very rightly gave him something worthy of his stature. And Krishna brought back his dead son. So Krishna kept his word. So multiple things, again, looking at Krishna. He is humble, the fact that he is accepting an authority. He's a leader, that he sets the example of the rules that he personally sets, right? He has set this example of Guru Shishya Parampara, disciplic succession. And he is specifically, personally, also following that rule. A lot of times we see in VIP culture, especially in India and other places too, if you have good connections, if you belong to certain families, if you belong to certain backgrounds, the rules don't apply to you, right? Everybody else stands in line, but since you are somebody special, you get to be in the front or a VIP line or something of that sort. Nothing like that. In Krishna's case, he's saying, you know what, I'm setting the example, right? So leadership, being a good student who's serving a spiritual master, it's not just the knowledge, I'm accepting the knowledge and asking questions, but also serving the spiritual master and setting a very strong example that I am God, I can make the impossible possible, right? So it also gives us strength as devotees that we pray to Krishna. He's not just stone, he is one person in this creation who can make the impossible possible. If there's one person who can, it's Krishna, right? So there, he's also setting that example for us devotees that I'm here for you. The next example is that of a hero. So we all know about Rukmini, Krishna's wonderful wife in Dwarka. Now, this chapter is about Krishna's Leela, Krishna's pastimes outside Vrindavan. So, Rukmini Devi had heard about Krishna. Right? Wow, Krishna is like this, Krishna is like that, these are his qualities, this is how he looks. And she just fell in love with Krishna just by hearing about him. And that's the power of Shravanam, that's the power of hearing, that just by hearing about the personality of Godhead or hearing about anything, it can make our hearts attracted to whatever we are hearing about. If somebody talks about certain politician, just by hearing about that, you want to go and cast your vote. Right now we're in that situation. So similarly here, Rukmini heard about Krishna and her heart was completely captured by Krishna, and she wrote a love letter to the personality of Godhead, saying, please kidnap me, Krishna, on such and such day and such time and such place. I am supposed to get married, and I don't want to get married to anyone but you, my dear Krishna. Please come and kidnap me. And it's really beautiful, although in this purport specifically, not much details are given, but in the 10th canto, you can read more about this pastime. But Rukmini, as she's walking out of her palace to do a little puja, where she had told Krishna, that's your window of opportunity. You have to come and take me from there. She's like, asks her aides, like, is Krishna here yet? No, Krishna is not here. She's like, Krishna is not here. Krishna is not here. So Krishna sometimes does that as a loving and a cheerful and a little slightly mischievous personality. Those who love him a lot, he kind of intensifies our desire for him, right? Sometimes by giving that little last minute suspense, right? So Rukmini was feeling that, like, will Krishna come? Will he not come? Did he get my letter? Did he not get my letter? And she was getting very, very, and then finally, obviously, Krishna came, and Krishna kidnapped her. And I'll read the purport to you. It's very beautiful how Srila Prabhupada says it. Rukmini invited Krishna to take her away from the clutches of Shishupal. So when the bridegroom, Shishupal, came there with his party with the desire to marry Rukmini, Krishna all of a sudden swept her from the scene, stepping over the heads of all the princes there, just as Garuda carried away the nectar from the hands of the demons. Krishna basically just swoops Rukmini away in front of everyone, and especially Shishupal, who, in case you didn't know, has a long history of hating Krishna. In fact, from his birth, he's been hating Krishna. He just cannot hear the name Krishna. For us, Krishna's name is our life's breath. But for Shishupal, he hated Krishna so much, he couldn't tolerate even the name of Krishna. As a child, he would cry if he ever heard Krishna's name. And Krishna, of all people, stole his potential wife from him. And that obviously infuriated this personality, Shishupal. But the point is, here is an angle where Krishna is showing his heroic nature, winning the heart of his beloved, Rukmini, who wrote a love letter and invited him to come and kidnap her. So again, it can be misread by certain people who are envious of Krishna, like, oh, that was very adharmic, and that was this, and that was not ethical. Who decides what's ethical, what's not? Krishna is the lawmaker. So he can pretty much do anything. We all belong to Krishna, right? But still, like we read, Krishna also follows his own rules. He sets his own examples. But at times, when his devotees call him, he can break those rules too. And he just to capture the heart of his devotee. And I'm going to digress a little bit from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3. If you go to the battlefield of Mahabharat, same thing happens, right? Arjun and Bhishma Dev, there is war exchange happening. Bhishma Dev is like, I am going to kill Arjun today. This is it. And he's like just going completely all over Arjun with his arrows and everything. And, Arjun is not able to keep up with Bhishma Dev. So Krishna stands up and takes some of the arrows. And then finally, Arjun's chariot is decimated. And then Krishna takes the wheel of the chariot and runs towards Bhishma Dev. And Bhishma Dev, there's a beautiful painting of this. Bhishma Dev just surrenders, like, you made me break my promise, which I'm not getting in the detail of the stories, but, and Bhishma Dev's like, now you break your promise. Okay, good. And Arjun ran to Krishna, held his lotus feet, like, Krishna, no. You promised you won't kill anyone. You won't pick up a weapon. Don't break your promise, right? And Krishna is like, it doesn't matter. I'm going to, kill Bhishma Dev to protect you. That's Krishna's nature is Bhakta Vatsala, heroic nature. Right, the same heroic nature that is using for abducting Rukmini from Shishupal, same heroic nature comes in when Krishna's dear friend Arjuna is in trouble. Right, same heroic nature comes in when a 5-year-old boy, the first case of child abuse in our history, Prahlad Maharaj gets in trouble. Right, although he doesn't feel in trouble, but Krishna cannot take it anymore. That this boy has gone through so much, he just comes out as nourishing a dev and it's like destroys Hiranyakashipu. And he's not done destroying him, he just rips him open, takes out his intestines and just makes a massive scene out of it, just to make an impression that, you know what, I love my devotees. And you mess with him, I will destroy you. At least that's how I perceive that nature of God, Krishna, that heroic nature of Krishna. It is very, very courage-giving. When we go through struggles in life, when we go through difficulties in life, we should remember, how is our dear Father Krishna? How is our dear friend Krishna? How is our dear, maintainer and sustainer of our lives, Krishna? This is his nature. He cannot tolerate paritrana sadhunam vinashata duskritam. He cannot tolerate the difficulty of his devotees. And if one exclusively takes shelter of Krishna, Krishna personally takes care of them. And there are so many examples in my life and lives of many devotees in Iscon Chicago and other places that I've seen that Krishna personally takes care of his devotees, right? He somehow or another makes arrangements such that, there's protection given to the devotee, sustenance, maintenance, all of that. When he says in Bhagavad Gita that surrender unto me, right, I will take care of you. 1866, that's his kind of concluding message. The paritrana, he's saying that surrender unto me, I will take care of all your difficulties, all your papa, all your, right, masachaha, don't worry. Krishna says, don't worry. I'll take care of everything for you. Just surrender. And that's what it means to surrender. To surrender means to accept Krishna as exclusive shelter, the exclusive maintainer, the exclusive sustainer, right? No backup plans. It's Krishna. Please help. So when we go through difficulties, these aspects, these angles, these qualities of Krishna, if we remember, we will feel encouraged and our faith will be restored that no, you know what? He's there for me. If nobody else might not remember me, but Krishna will remember because that's his nature. This heroic nature comes from love in every aspect of the stories I gave you, whether it's Rukmini Devi, where there's conjugal love, whether it's uh, Arjun, where it's friendly love, right? Or whether it's our Prahlad Maharaj, where it's uh, loving Vatsalya love. Krishna is acting. The heroic nature is not just to show his muscle power, but it's actually involved with protecting a devotee, right? The Bhakta Vatsal nature. So you need to understand Krishna's crown jewel quality is Bhakta Vatsala. That's his primary. He wants to be known that way. He doesn't want to be known as the richest, the most beautiful, and all of. They are there, yes. Akarshititi Krishna, 6 opulences of God, yes. But his crown jewel quality that he wants to be known by is that please see my leelas and use your intelligence to understand I really love you, right? Bhakta Vatsala, I really care for you. I am here to protect you. So that heroic aspect should give us this assurance when we go through difficulties in life that Krishna is there for us because that's his nature. That's who he is. And the same nature, comes out while killing Narakasura. Here, Prabhupada is saying in the purport that once Krishna killed Narakasura, he helps all these women, all these princesses that Narakasura had abducted and kept, at a certain place. So Krishna comes and helps them, But these women, they're like Krishna. Generally, in Vedic culture, a girl goes from father's custody to a husband's custody, and in our case, this demon had taken us from our father, and nobody's going to marry us. So our only hope is that you would marry us, and that would save our lives. Otherwise, our only option is life of indignity or death. So kindly, Krishna, accept us as your wives. And Krishna does, right? All those princesses were lodged in different apartments. Not only accepts them as his wife, he makes complete arrangement for each one of those 16,000 princesses, right? So he says all those princesses were lodged in different apartments, and the Lord simultaneously assumed different bodily expansions, exactly matching each and every princess. He accepted their hands in perfect rituals by his internal potency. So Krishna not only made arrangements for their palatial stays and maidservants and jewelry and you name it, whatever a princess would require, a queen would need. Not only that, but he personally also expanded himself to each one of them in a slightly unique, different way, matching their nature. Right. So we are like, when we are looking for man-woman matching in a relationship, in a marriage, we are trying to find similar natures that can complement each other's nature, something like that. But in this case, Krishna personally just creates different versions of himself, expands himself for each and every single wife. So it's not just he's providing them with all the necessities of life, but also providing them with himself, right? And that's why he's God. So people a lot of times again point fingers. Oh, Krishna has 16,000 wives. What kind of a God is his? Well, he's the only kind of personality who can sustain 16,000 wives and keep all of them happy and satisfied because he's Krishna. Try doing that with even 16 wives, one would understand what it takes, but Krishna could do it and simultaneously satisfy all of them. So again, Krishna's nature, not only he, helped those princesses out of the clutches of this demon, but also gave them whatever was needed for them to sustain their lives and make them happy, because they were surrendered to Krishna. Krishna, please help. That's what they reached out to Krishna for, and Krishna took care of them. Yogakshemam Vahabhyaham. Again, another Bhagavad Gita verse that comes to mind, where Krishna is saying, whatever you lack, I sustain, and whatever you have, I sustain, and whatever you lack, I carry for you. Right? So he carries personally what we lack, and he sustains what we have. So there is no loss in this process of Krishna consciousness. In fact, there's only gain. Whatever we don't have, Krishna provides that. And personally speaking, I have I have many such experiences in my life, and there are many in the scriptures where, but let's just give some examples, right? Let's elaborate on this point. Srila Prabhupada looks at a devotee and says, so why don't you go start Back to Godhead magazine? And this devotee looks at Prabhupada and like, Prabhupada, I have only read magazines. I've only seen magazines. I am not even educated properly to, write in a magazine, what to speak of being editor and running the magazine. Prabhupada said, it's okay, Krishna will help you. And just by Prabhupada saying it, Krishna empowered this personality and not only helped him, run Back to Godhead magazine, but later on, even Srila Prabhupada's purports, he was editing, and he still does, if I believe, in BBT. So, and my personal life, I can tell you, almost every service I've been given, it has been like, there's no way I can do this service. And my mentor, Nityananda Pran Prabhu, is like, you're the only one who can do this. Pray to Krishna and make it happen. I was like, Krishna, please help. I want to serve my mentor. I want to serve Srila Prabhupada. I want to serve you. Please help. And somehow or other, whatever I lack, somehow Krishna has provided for them. And somehow those services have worked out by his kind grace, even the most unqualified. Somehow or other, it has brought that faith in me that, Krishna is very much there. And if one is dedicated in wanting to serve Krishna, impossible becomes possible, and only Krishna can do it. Right? So it's, if I had more time, I would share some of stories, but I'd rather glorify Krishna a little bit more. All right. Another aspect of leadership. So we did mention one aspect of leadership where he sets an example. Another aspect of leadership is when a leader does something that is an act of sacrifice, act of personal sacrifice for a higher good, right? And here we see in third canto, chapter 3, described about Krishna actually wanting the Yadu dynasty to be destroyed, right? Because they're very, very powerful personalities. And there are multiple reasons, there are multiple layers to that decision that Krishna made. But most importantly, Krishna does it for a higher purpose. So even in Lord Ramachandra's case, we see that for a higher purpose, the lady that he loves, Sita Devi, he loves so much. He fought with Ravan to get her back, but he couldn't stay with her, right? But it was for a higher purpose again. Again, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got married to this wonderful wife of his, and Vishnupriya Devi, and then he took sannyas for a higher purpose, personal sacrifice. So again, this angle of Krishna, although he doesn't have to make personal sacrifices, but as a leader he does. He puts our needs above his own needs. And that's also something we can learn from the personality of Godhead. What kind of a leader is Krishna? He's not a self-serving leader. He is not a leader of nepotism, like, only my family. He could have done that. He could have had the Yadu dynasty and have his own disciplic succession running from his own bloodline, right? But no, he decided not to go that route. Some politicians do that. They get into office, and then their kids get into office. Their family becomes extremely wealthy, and there's a lot of that happens. But in the case of Krishna, he's not that kind of a leader. he really sets examples where he clearly makes it, shows it to us that, you know what, you matter more to me than myself, right? And again, this reminds me of another pastime where Duryodhana had created this massive tent with massive, food and all kinds of facilities, invited Krishna. And at the same time, Vidur had also made some arrangements at his residence for Krishna. And when Krishna went to Vidur's house, he ignored Duryodhana, went to Vidur's house, and Vidur's wife, out of excitement, threw away the banana peel, threw the banana and gave the banana peel to Krishna. And Krishna ate the banana peel with a lot of love. Because again, to showcase that example that my devotees, when they give me something with love, I accept it. Bhaktavatsal nature of Krishna, that's his primary quality, right? So throughout Krishna's pastimes, we get to see various aspects of Krishna, whether it's leadership, whether it's heroic nature as a husband, as a lover, as a father, as a politician, as a diplomat, right? All of that. But in between all of those, aspects of Krishna's personality, is there's one common aspect, that's Bhaktavatsala. So when we read scriptures, it is important that we actually take a magnifying glass and make sure we find those aspects, because that's how Vedescha Sarvedaham Vedya. If you're reading the scriptures without an intention to know Krishna, it is a waste of time. Because of all the scriptures, there's only one thing to be known, Krishna, right? That's according to his own words in Bhagavad Gita. Vedescha Sarven Aham Eva Vedya. I'm to be known from all the scriptures. So actually, a much more beautifully stated version is what Nityananda Pran Prabhu says is forensics. Just like when there is a crime or a murder scene, people come with all kinds of equipments to find the fingerprints of who might have been here, right? And one of them might have been the murderer. So similarly, in our lives, when we have had an issue or we are going through certain things, we should look for Krishna's fingerprints or footprints. And that way we can appreciate that, what, Krishna was here. Even though I might not have seen it, but Krishna was here. There are certain things that indicate Krishna was here. He took care of things for me, even though I didn't even know, without even telling me, without even showing himself, he takes care of things for us. That's a extremely amazing aspect of God. He's not a show off. He's renunciate. He's detached, and that's coming up. So the next, so I'm going to talk about detachment in a short while, but before that, we're going to again talk about Krishna as a protector of his devotees. So another purport in the same chapter, Srila Prabhupada is saying, therefore, when Ashwadhama destroyed the embryo of Maharaj Parikshit, the Lord, by his own internal potency, entered into the womb of Uttara by his plenary portion, just to give audience to the would-be Maharaj Parikshit, who was in great danger. By his appearance within the womb, the Lord encouraged the child and gave him complete protection in a new body by his omnipotency. By his power of omnipresence, he was present both inside and outside of Uttara and other members of the Pandava family. So Ashwadhama had launched Brahmastra to kill the only survivor of the Pandava, the next generation of the Pandavas, that is Maharaj Parikshit. And Maharaj Parikshit, as we know, is a very special devotee because of whom we are today talking about Srimad Bhagavatam, right? He's a pure devotee of the Lord. And Krishna, being outside, being with the Pandavas, also expanded again to the embryo, to the womb of Uttara, and gave a new body to the soul of Maharaj Parikshit. And not only gave a new body, it says the Lord encouraged the child and gave him complete protection in a new body by his omnipotency. Right? So again, the nature of Krishna comes out being a protector of his devotee. And Clearly so. He can save us from anything. If he can save somebody from an atomic bomb or a Brahmastra, then he can do anything. And Krishna does. And this is also another breaking of the promise, where Krishna is taking part in this war, where he said, I will not pick up any weapon. I will not, So first, Krishna actually takes care of, he picks up that little chariot wheel to go to kill Bhishma Dev. Then the second one is where Arjun's son gets killed, and Arjun makes a promise that he will kill Drishtadyumna. And Krishna again changes the laws of nature. He makes the sun appear even after the sun has set, right? Just to make sure Arjun can kill. And in this case, again, Krishna takes part in this war by entering the womb of Uttara and saving Maharaj Parikshit. So Krishna actually breaks his promise 3 times to protect his devotees, again, thereby setting that example that his nature as Bhakta Vatsala, that he doesn't mind being known in history as a man who could, or the person who could not keep his word or did not keep his word. That's okay to him. But what is not okay is his devotees being in danger. So he took care of his devotees. He protected them, right? Now let's come to detachment, life of detachment. So Krishna, after the battlefield, at the battle of Kurukshetra, Yudhishthira Maharaj was, placed as the king of the entire earth planet by Krishna. So here in the purport, Prabhupada is saying, like other subordinate kings, he was under the regime of Maharaj Yudhishthira. Although Lord Krishna is a supreme emperor of the entire creation, while he was on this earth, he never violated the principles of the Vedic injunctions, because they are the guide for human life. The Lord was acting freely as he willed. Yet, by his practical example, he taught not to lead a life which goes against the principles of detachment and knowledge. So, even though one might see Krishna and think, oh, Krishna, he doesn't follow rules. He has so many girlfriends. He has so many wives. He does this and that. He breaks rules. He steals butter. But if you look at it, Krishna is constantly detached, right? So, Gyan, Vairagya, detachment and knowledge, that is a constant companion of Krishna, if you look at it, even though he's going through all these very, very beautiful, very, very adventurous pastimes. Look at Krishna's detachment. We all know, we understand how much Krishna loves Srimati Radharani and the gopis. And yet, he is so detached that he can be away from them for a higher purpose, political reasons and whatnot. His family needed him. So he's away from Vrindavan for so long, yet his heart is with them. So detached at the same time, he doesn't love anyone more than Srimati Radharani, right? The love is there, but love and detachment. The knowledge is constantly there. Everything he does is in alignment with scriptures. Every rule, that so-called rule that he's breaking, is also, if you look deeper into the pastime or the Leela, it's an alignment with the scriptures, right? For example, one of the popular things that Krishna is known for by materialists is Krishna stealing the clothes of the gopis. But for the devotees, we know that the gopis wanted Krishna as their husband. And they got married to Krishna when he expanded into the cowherd boys, when Lord Brahma had abducted those cowherd boys. So these gopis are his rightful wives, and a husband has a right to see his wives naked. So when Krishna did that pastime, it's not just somebody how a materialistic person would look at it. It is Krishna completely in alignment with his scriptures, right? So Krishna, who is the creator of all the laws, he also abides by all those laws. As a leader, he sets an example. Yad yad acharati shrestha tat tat eva praj. So as the great person does, so does the common man follow. So whatever Krishna does, we should follow. We should not copy him, right? Srila Prabhupada was very clear about it. It's like, don't try to just mindlessly copy Krishna. Oh, Krishna was with so many girlfriends, I'll also do the same thing. Then he says, okay, then also lift the Govardhan hill with your pinky of your left hand. Let's see you do that, right? So it's not like you can copy one aspect and not the other. He's God and he can do many things. So we can follow his example. We can follow his instructions that is given in Bhagavad Gita, and the instructions given by his purest of devotees in Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So I hope this has helped you get a glimpse into the personality of Godhead up close and personal, and kind of get to know Krishna. And I urge you again that as you read scriptures, every verse that you read, try to have that forensic mindset of looking for Krishna's footprints and thumbprints, so that you don't miss out on the essence of that verse when you're reading through it. No matter what verse it is, if Srila Prabhupada has given a purport, you will find Krishna somewhere or other, because that's what Srila Prabhupada's entire focus has been, to give us the essence of bhakti, essence of Krishna consciousness, and connect us to the personality of Godhead, and allow our heart to be stolen by Krishna by knowing him, how sweet he is, how heroic he is, how loving he is, how much he cares about us even more than his personal self, right? And that should invigorate our Krishna consciousness. And I hope and pray that we all feel more energized in our relationship with Krishna. Now I would open up for questions and answers.
All right, thank you so much. And as a reminder to all the folks on Zoom and YouTube, to please type your questions in the chat and they will be presented in the order they are received. In the meantime, I had a couple of questions.
I was going to say, if you have some insights, kindly share.
No insights, just questions. So the first one is, well, thank you for sharing many nice points and pastimes that are covered in this chapter. And as you were speaking, the thought was coming that by Krishna allowing us to get up close and personal, it allows us to better follow in his footsteps, since intimacy allows us to come to a better understanding of principles, not just a superficial view of Krishna's words and actions. So understanding the context or the person. So in your practice and what you've heard, how would you recommend we most practically try to understand these pastimes within the context of this is a person, like the personality of Krishna?
That was a very long question. Can you ask me one more time in shorter sentence?
So how do we, I guess another way to say it is, how do we keep the focus on Krishna as a person with likes, dislikes, preferences that we can build a relationship with, that, you know, rather than just a series of fables or morals?
And that's why I said, have that magnifying glass and look for knowing Krishna a little bit better, this personality of Krishna. Like even when we're reading Bhagavad Gita, even the way Krishna names Arjun in different ways, or even Srimad Bhagavatam, the way Srila Prabhupada writes the purports, that my dear Pralad, etc. We see that nature of loving Krishna, loving nature of Krishna that's coming out. So if we have the eagerness to see an angle or a personality trait or the nature of Krishna, right? In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying, my devotees shall never be vanquished, right? Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, Krishna actually makes this gesture and says, declare it boldly, my dear Arjun, that my devotees shall never be vanquished, right? So if you visualize that and understand that this is Krishna saying it, giving us empowerment, and that's his nature. He is encouraging us to take another step in his direction, right? It should make us feel more attracted to Krishna. That wow, what a loving, what a caring person, what an encouraging person. So in every, like I said, in every verse that we read, we should look for a personality of Krishna, that what is his intention when he's saying this, and what context is he saying it, the love that with which he is saying it, that bhakto si me sakacheti, you're my friend and devotee, that's why I'm sharing this confidential knowledge to you, right? Okay, so no, to understand this confidential knowledge, I have to be a bhakta, I have to be a devotee, I have to be a friend, I have to have friendly disposition towards Krishna. So through every sentence Krishna says, or every sentence that glorifies Krishna, we can distill, we can obtain some insight into the personality of Godhead, and thereby knowing him a little bit more, and our hearts getting a little bit more attracted by his personality. Does it help, Ishanandana? If I missed something, why don't you share?
No, it's nice. I wanted to hear your take on it. So thank you for sharing that. The other question is, well, one thing that you said that really resonated was, please use your intelligence when you hear about Krishna's Leelas to understand that Krishna really loves us. So seeing the Leelas from the context of an expression of Krishna's love. And that resonated, that's the primary reason Krishna appears in this material world, to attract us with his activities and qualities in a very direct way. So there are some pastimes that are more difficult to understand in that context and feel initially attracted to. So how do you recommend we understand that category of pastimes or words while still trying to develop loving feelings, given loving someone means accepting everything about that person?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And you know, if we're cherry picking, it feels like I'm accepting some and rejecting some, which isn't love as far as I understand.
If I understand your question is, there are certain pastimes that are a little harder to understand. How should one approach those pastimes and understand it? Is that right?
Understand from the perspective of Krishna loves us.
Krishna loves us. Yeah. And sometimes we might not have the visibility into the loving aspect of Krishna. And that's why the disciplic succession exists. That's why we have, the fruit that has been touched by the beak of the parrot is more sweet, right? That's why we hear it from devotees. That's why Srila Prabhupada's purports are so important, because what we might miss are given by Srila Prabhupada's purports. And sweeter even is when those purports are explained by those great devotees who explain those purports to us, and it gets sweeter, and we get to taste that sweetness, because we might not always have the ability to distill that sweetness out of that pastime. So it's important that we hear from disciplic succession, from bhaktas, from devotees who have a taste for Krishna consciousness, a taste for Krishna's loving nature. And when they tell us, we get to perceive it, hands-on. We get to see it through their eyes and perceive it through them. That's one aspect. Number two is also going back to these pastimes over and over and over again, because as we mature in our Krishna consciousness, Krishna reveals more about himself to us, because we develop, as our heart gets cleaned or cleansed, we get more visibility into these pastimes and more depth of understanding, more realizations come in. And thus, every time we read these pastimes, we will get deeper and deeper insights into how loving is Krishna. Even if it is tough love, how loving is Krishna. Even if it is difficult to understand, how is Krishna showing love here? Slowly that comes as you go through it over and over and over again, because by cleansing of the heart, you get more visibility into the unknowable Adhokshaja. The name of Krishna is Adhokshaja because he's beyond the mind and senses. And he becomes knowable when we have surrender, when we have eagerness, and when we really say, Krishna, I want to know you. Please reveal yourself to me so I can be attracted by your pastimes, right? And by that humility, by that eagerness, Krishna makes himself known. We can only know Krishna when he allows himself to be known to us. And that is a process of surrender, eagerness, love, determination, and all of that. So one is hearing from the disciplic succession who we have a strong attachment to, and repeating back and back, going back to those pastimes. And every time you will get deeper and deeper insights into the loving nature of Krishna.
Thank you so much. And I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. If you had any concluding remarks. Unless
I
there
would really love for you to actually have something, share something from whatever I've shared. If anything touched your heart.
well, I shared that.
Well, you asked first. Okay. All right. I won't put you in a. In conclusion, just one thing that Krishna, just know, if you didn't hear anything, there's just one aspect of God, that know that he's there for you. And it's not just scriptures. It's not just these amazing pure devotees of the Lord, whether it's Draupadi or whether it's Gajendra and all these amazing personalities. It's also us. And because Srila Prabhupada has given us shelter in this wonderful organization called Iscon, and because Krishna loves Srila Prabhupada, we also have access, inheritance to Krishna's attention. We have access to Krishna, to knowing Krishna. And when we know Krishna, given his nature, he's all attractive. We'll be attracted to Krishna. So have an open heart and let the attractive nature of Krishna come into our hearts. And as we get attracted, we get detached from matter. The more we get attracted to Krishna, we get detached from matter. So don't be scared if that is happening. It's a beautiful transition. It doesn't make you less of your abundance doesn't go down. You don't lose your family. You don't lose your friends. What happens is the way you perceive family, friends, and everything else that comes in a material life, you perceive it differently. When you're attracted to Krishna, you're not attached to matter, yet you're able to use matter in service to Krishna. So what is the point of knowing Krishna and knowing his qualities and knowing him up close and personal? The point is, now that we know him, now that our hearts are attracted to him, we can serve him better. We can serve him from our hearts. And that's all Krishna wants from us, is he wants our hearts, right? He has everything. He doesn't need our money. He doesn't need our glorification. He needs our heart. And when we do anything from our heart, that is appreciated. And that is what the whole point and purpose of knowing someone. Just like in a relationship, in a dating relationship or romantic relationship, one gets to know each other and they develop attraction for each other. And then what happens? Madness happens. The couple, they cannot think of anything but each other, right? And that's what should happen when we get to know Krishna. Everything reminds us of Krishna. Rasoham apsakonte. When you're drinking water, you're thinking, oh, Krishna is a taste of water. You look at the sun and the moon. Krishna is a source of the effulgence of the sun and the moon. Wow. Everything, when your heart is attracted to Krishna, everything should remind you of Krishna. So, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. So you hear about Krishna, you speak about Krishna, and you remember Krishna. And that is the perfection of our lives. And hopefully at the time of death, we can remember Krishna and go back to him. He promises us that at the time of death, when you think of me, you come back to me. And that's the goal of life, is going back to Krishna, our eternal home, Goloka Vrindavan. So I pray and hope that all of us can get attracted to Krishna, serve him with our hearts and souls throughout our lives, remember him, remember his pastimes, and with a smiling face, leave this body and go back to Krishna Loka and be with Krishna eternally and eternally serve him in his pastimes. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ishanandan Prabhu. Very grateful for the opportunity.
Always appreciative of you coming to speak to us. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
And just a quick announcement, next week's Sunday feast will be given by His Grace Chaitanya Kishore Prabhu, going over Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 4th Chapter. So the Brilliant is the Sun series will continue. Hare Krishna.